Angus and Malcolm, Dwayne and Dickie, Joe and Brad, Slash and Izzy, Lenny and Squiggy. They're some of the greatest guitar duos in rock and roll, but today we've got the 10 most underrated guitar duos in rock and roll. We've got that list for you today, right here on GearGasms. Hi everybody, welcome to GearGasms. I'm your host, Alan Barnes. If you're new to the channel, we do some gear reviews, we do some stuff like this. It's mostly amateurish. It's quite often pointless, but I encourage you to subscribe anyway. Today we're going to be looking at 10 of the most underrated guitar duos in rock and roll. Now, if you know, I've done a bunch of these lists in the past. My number 10 slot was always occupied by at least 2, if not 3 guitar players because I like breaking the rules. So consequently, I've burned through quite a few lists of guitar duos that are underrated already, but fear not, I have unearthed a fresh batch of the 10 most underrated guitar duos in rock and roll. And without wasting a further second, let's jump right into it. Starting off with number 10, just like I said a second ago, I like to break the rules on this, and since we're doing guitar duos, you know I'm going to do a threesome. Who's that threesome going to be? We're talking Leonard Skinner. But is it the Ed King threesome or the Steve Gaines? Steve Gaines. Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, and Steve Gaines. My oh my, what a great combination. But as good as Ed King was with that band, when Steve Gaines joined, the whole band just was elevated. That boy could do it all. He could play an enormous amount of styles. He was a gifted songwriter. And whoa, he could sing in addition to all of that. So for that reason, those 3 boys from Skinner, number 10 on our list. Number 9 on our list, Judas Priest, Glenn Tipton, K.K. Downing. Now a lot of guitar duos I like, they played 2 different parts in the band. You think of like Joe Perry and Brad Whitford of Aerosmith, or you think of Slash and Izzy from Guns N' Roses, where they played 2 very different things that complement one another. And Judas Priest, a lot of the time, those guys were playing kind of the same thing during the rhythm parts, and they often took turns playing leads. Judas Priest, pick an album, from the very get-go to the very end, they covered a lot of ground. They really evolved musically throughout that time, and all throughout that time, those 2 guys were tearing it up. Therefore, number 9 on our list. Number 8 on the list of the most underrated guitar duos in rock history, it's the Cars, it's Elliot Eason and Ric Ocasek. Now I know what you're saying, that one's kind of out of left field, but those were 2 great tastes that tasted great together, kind of like the old Strat and the Les Paul. Ric Ocasek was a very angular, very right-hand, sort of clicky, chukka-chukka, straight-up kind of guitar player. Elliot Eason, on the other hand, actually had a country background. Those 2 things sort of fused together and helped define what we now know as new wave. In addition to that, they looked really cool on stage because Rick was right-handed and Elliot was left-handed, gave the band that kind of symmetry. But the Cars were very, very instrumental, pun intended, in sort of setting up the dynamics of what makes a really great 2-guitar new wave band. Number 8 on our list. Number 7 on our list, the Rolling Stones. Keith Richards and Mick Taylor. Now I know a lot of people, they really revere the Keith Richards and the Brian Jones era in the band. And then there's some people who equally revere the combination of Ron Wood and Keith Richards. Both of those guitar duos are very tasty, but my favorite period of the Rolling Stones, 1968 to about 1973. Stones, so many great songs there. They were sort of the same, but yet wildly different in their playing styles. And for my money, there was no better era of the Rolling Stones than the time that Mick Taylor was in the band. They're number 7 on our list. Number 6 on the list of underrated guitar duos, Television, the band. Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd. Just 2 years and 2 records during their initial run, but what an influence they had. They came out of that New York CBGB scene. Tom sort of did the more dissonant, more angular stuff, where Richard tended to play the more normal, in the pocket, more melodic, more traditional type of guitar parts. But together those two made a very big noise in a very short time. Hence, the boys from Television, number 6 on our list. Number 5 on our list, we're halfway there, are we having fun yet? This next band, you couldn't have had these 2 guitar players without Television before them, and I'm talking about Sonic Youth. Lee Ronaldo and Thurston Moore, they use really dissonant things, noise experiments. They sort of are considered the founders of noise rock. Extremely odd tunings, extremely different effects. Weave all those things together. They would use odd objects to play their instruments and create this wonderful noise. They were part of a movement that included the Butthole Surfers and Pussy Galore. And don't get mad at me, I didn't name the bands, but what an amazing tour that would have been. You can even hear a lot of the things that they did being done by people like Muse today. Sonic Youth, very, very influential, hence they're number 5 on our list. Number 4 on our list, Metallica. James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett. Now I know what you're thinking. I've already had Kirk Hammett on the list of the overrated guitar players, but hear me out. It's those two together that make something special. James Hetfield, what a right hand. His chugga chugga riffs probably defined an entire generation of thrash metal. We also forget that James can play some lead every now and then. The power that they held by playing together is certainly greater than the sum of the individual parts, but you gotta give them their credit. Metallica, James and Kirk, number 4 on our list. Coming in at number 3 on our list, you couldn't have had this band without Metallica. I'm talking about Megadeth. Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman. Holy smokes, what a great combination. Maybe the best two-man combination in thrash. Slayer fans, hold all your calls, but that 3-album run from Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, and Euthanasia, to me, may very well be the best 3 consecutive record run in the history of thrash. Both of those guys could play lead. My absolute favorite version of Megadeth, and that's why Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman, number 3 on our list. Coming down the home stretch on our list with number 2, the Eagles, Joe Walsh and Don Felder. I know what you're thinking, neither one of those men are underrated in any way, but together you don't hear people talk about them a lot as a duo. Of course, we all know the solo from Hotel California, and no, we're not going to hear it because good God almighty, you can't even put a 2-second clip of any version of that song on YouTube. Both of those guys very different from each other, but they played together really well, and they also took turns soloing in ways that you could instantly identify. This is Joe, this is Don. What a great rock and roll duo. They're number 2 on our list. Finally, number 1 on our list, Thin Lizzy. Now, which guitar duo are we talking about? There were 3 good sets, but the first set, Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham, oh my goodness, just the Jailbreak record alone. The boys are back in town. Those twin harmonized guitar leads added an almost Wagnerian or operatic backdrop to a song that was already cinematic and very much a story song, lifted that song to new heights. They set the blueprint for what 2 guitar players could do, and later on John Sykes and Scott. Great combinations, all 3 of them, but man oh man, those first 2, those are the ones that do it for me. I absolutely am crazy about that era of Thin Lizzy. Hence, those dudes, they're number 1 on our list. what'd you think of this list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you angry? Do you think the order should be different? Do you have some favorites that didn't make this list? Make sure you leave them in the comments, because I do like to do viewers' choice versions of these videos at times. As always, I thank you for your time. Please like and subscribe. Spread the word about GearGasms to all your low rent friends. You can buy a t-shirt if you want to. It ain't no big whoop. Whatever you do in the next 7 days, don't tell Roy Clark and Buck Owens about it, because they're super salty that they didn't make this list. But make sure you play guitar more and watch less YouTube, and keep coming back here week after week for more GearGasms.